what if tomorrow these platforms don't exist anymore?
Communication तो होगा, dissemination of knowledge तो होगा,
Creator economy going to survive. And
Instagram or social media platforms have gained prominence as a really important communication tool, right? And media as we knew it, right, has changed, right? Media has moved from mainstream TV channels to creator channels, right? And that's why people like me, you are betting on creator economy as a career. Here is कि उसका society पर जो impact है उस technology का वो इतना बढ़ गया है कि people really feel the platforms and the regulators and governments they really feel कि अब time आ गया है कि यार we need to moderate the content. We need to ensure
yes,
it is used for the right reasons.
What's the new age marketing mantra? Well, the creators and influencer marketing. No wonder this space is booming currently in the new age Bharat. But what about a community specially created for the creators? How about their fans supporting them with all their power? Hi everyone, this is me Vritvi Sawant and you are watching yet another fresh episode of Vritvi Talks the Ambition podcast. And my today's guest is someone who has created a platform like this, wherein the creators get to connect with their fans and can offer them a partnership as well. I have today with me Mr. Himanshu Garg, the founder and CEO of Fanztar. Fanztar is a creator-first marketplace empowering creators to kickstart monetization via revenue sharing with their fans. This episode sheds light upon the ecosystem of the entire creator economy, so make sure you don't miss out and stick till the end.
hi Himanshu, welcome to Vritvi Talks the Ambition podcast.
Hi, Vritvi. Great to connect with you and looking forward to the conversation.
My pleasure. You know, the best part of my job is where I get to connect with such amazing minds out there. And these conversations, I'm sure pretty much, it just doesn't help me, but it's also very helpful and very insightful for all the viewers and all the listeners.
I'm sure you're doing great work with your channel. I keep following you guys around for inputs. Yeah.
That's lovely. Okay, so Himanshu, first and foremost, like we were, talking that day also on the call, that with Fanstar, I think now that you have started penetrating in the market, okay, but
Yeah.
trust me on this when I say this, that it's very difficult for anybody to be a trailblazer because you absolutely had no reference point. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल जैसे पहले पेटीएम आया मार्केट में उसके बाद फिर गूगल पे केम देन भारत
Correct.
पे देन फोन पे बट दे ऑल हैड समवन टू लुक at for a reference point.
Yeah.
But with Fanstar, I mean, hats off to you. You have taken a great risk, and thankfully, this gamble has turned gold for you. Now, maybe I can say that, right?
Yeah.
So please tell us that from where did this idea come up, and why only Fanstar? How did you start
So
this
I
journey?
think, yeah, so you rightly said being a trailblazer is very difficult. So when we started off, me and Sahil, who's the co-founder, we didn't know it's going to be that difficult. We both of us read books and हम दोनों यही सोचते थे कि कुछ नया करना है, कुछ नया करना है. But eventually when you get into it, you realize कि कुछ नया करना कितना मुश्किल है. The
Yes.
market does not support you. The customers, although they understand कि इसमें कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है या beneficial हो रहा है, but they are very, very hesitant, especially in markets
Yes.
like India. So I
Yes.
think that journey in itself, starting something with no reference point, it's very challenging. But it also gives you the space to experiment. क्योंकि कोई competition नहीं है, so you can create your own space, right? And with Fanstar, I think it happened very organically. तो हमने कभी सोचा नहीं था कि Fanstar नाम होगा. So we were just discussing कि what are we building, right? What's the idea about? तो हमने बोला कि कुछ तो इसमें fan का, audience का component है और the other belief that we have and we strongly support that is creators are going to be stars of tomorrow. So we wanted to bring in this word star and then we clubbed it up with the Z, which is the Gen Z way of doing things. So it became Fanstar and we started calling it in our beta phase when we were just developing the product and we had nothing. And it became a thing. It sort of grew upon us and we just started using it. And then it became official that we will be called Fanstar. So that's how it sort of worked. And in terms of the journey as to how we arrived at the idea, I think वो काफी interesting है. So 2020 के बाद we had two major observations, right? कि blockchain based projects में speculation बहुत है, but technology बहुत अच्छी है, right? But no one is actually thinking about real life use cases. Second was कि creator economy बहुत boom कर रहा है. Content creators like yourself, right, are basically giving way to more and more knowledge. तो हम चाहते थे कि दोनों को we build something at the intersection of it, and that's how Fanstar was born with one single mission statement कि we wanted to make the audience a part of the value creation process that is
Yes.
happening in the creator economy on the internet. So
Yes.
उससे हमने शुरू किया, and I think it's been crazy 2 years. I mean, in terms of personal growth and otherwise as well. Yeah.
But that's lovely, yeah. I mean, I can
Yeah.
only imagine that how difficult it must have been for you guys in the beginning to even
Yeah.
convince people out there, right?
Yeah.
So how did you
Mm.
how did you surpass that phase? Because see,
Mm.
the first and foremost challenge is to get sales, right? And the
Yeah.
second challenge is to raise funds because
Yeah.
you have to show numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, we were actually, Prithvi, we were very fortunate to raise capital early on in our journey, right? Despite the environment being challenging in 2022, the funding winter has just started, right?
Hmm.
We were fortunate enough to be backed by some of the leading investors in the space, IndiaQuotient and ShareChat founders. I think it
Hmm.
all happened when they figured out that the business model that we were creating, right,
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
something in it that can change the future or shape the future. So I think
Yes.
hats off to them for realizing that, and that gave us all the more confidence to go out
Yes.
there, talk to people, right? मतलब I think अगर मैं simple words में बोलूँ तो बहुत rejections मिली. Even after we got funded, we got a lot of rejections from creators वो नहीं करना चाहते थे, from audience who said कि इसकी जरूरत ही क्या है. And then eventually, I've seen that transformation of attitude happen over the last year or so, right? So वहां से मुझे realize हुआ कि you really have to pull it through, right? And now it's
Hmm.
like our motto in the team is like we are the underdogs, so we just have to pull it through. So I think वो एक culture build हो गया है,
Yeah.
luckily in the entire team. So we are fortunate to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. But what do you think? What ticked off? How did that transition happen? I'm sure वो overnight तो
Mm.
नहीं होता है.
Yes.
There are a lot of efforts,
Mm.
lot of calls, lot of no's, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Lot of
Yeah.
no's that one has to face. But what do you
Mm.
think ticked off, or what changed since last year in
Mm.
the creator economy?
सो आई थिंक सबसे बड़ी गलती कोई भी फाउंडर करता है या कोई भी एंटरप्रेन्योर करता है कि वो ये सोचता है कि आई जस्ट गेट एवरीथिंग, आई जस्ट डू एवरीथिंग, एंड दैट्स हाउ वी
Yeah.
आल्सो स्टार्टेड. वी सेड कि we'll capture the market, we'll go to talk to this guy, we'll go talk to this
Yeah.
creator, and so on and so forth. And very like early in our journey, 2-3 महीने थोड़े थप्पड़ खाने के बाद we realized कि rejections लेने के बाद we realized कि this is not the way to do it. Like we
Hmm.
have to be
Hmm.
very focused, और हमें
Hmm.
एक स्ट्रेटेजिक वे में प्रूफ पॉइंट्स देने पड़ेगे लोगों को, बिकॉज
Hmm.
व्हेन यू आर
Hmm.
बिल्डिंग समथिंग न्यू you are dreaming about it all the time, but
Correct.
your audience, your customers, your the creators in our case, they have no idea what we are thinking about, right? तो
Hmm.
एक आधे घंटे की कॉन्वर्सेशन में हम we can't transfer our dream to them, right?
Hmm.
For
Hmm.
them to sort of take cognizant as at scale, they have to be convinced by results, right?
Yes.
So we then
Yes.
started to form some pioneer creators, like people who are more entrepreneurial in nature, people who are more accepting of new systems, right?
Hmm.
ऐसे भी कुछ
Hmm.
लोग थे कि यार YouTube Instagram है तो ये क्यों करना है, although they didn't even realize we are not a content platform, right? We are a loyalty sort of a program for
Yes.
creators to form meaningful communities. तो आई थिंक वहां से हमने शुरू किया, तो एक सक्सेस स्टोरी हमारी बनी जिसको पकड़ के हमने लोगों को दिखाया कि देखो ये पॉसिबल है और इस स्केल पे पॉसिबल है. एंड
Hmm.
देन वी वर्क विद दैट क्रिएटर टू इंश्योर कि वो क्रिएटर ही क्रिएटर से बात करे, हम नहीं
Hmm.
बात करेंगे. व्हेन अ
Hmm.
कंपनी कम्स इनटू द पिक्चर, पीपल थिंक दैट दे आर speaking for profits or
Yes.
speaking for
Yes.
their own business objective. So I think
Yes.
creator community is very supportive. तो उनमें से कुछ लोगों ने हमारी बहुत हेल्प करी है, एंड आई थिंक आई एम वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू द फैक्ट कि जितने भी स्ट्रेंजर्स मुझे मिले मेरी जर्नी में, राइट, दे हैव हेल्प्ड मी अ लॉट, राइट. I knew nobody in the creator economy. I knew nobody in the VC industry. And I think जितना लोगों ने मुझे help किया है, I can only be grateful. So whenever anybody connects with me on LinkedIn, yeah, wherever. So I
Yeah.
am always up for a call, whether be it 1 in the night, because I know कि वो क्या दिन थे, and gradually we have built it up. And without the help of these people, you can really not do much, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think जरूरी क्या है कि whenever you're building a company or anything else, you have to also you have to have that realization कि people help you become who you are. So
Yes.
form meaningful relationships and help people out. So I think that's been
Well,
the biggest learning, and that's what has worked for us. Yeah.
that's lovely. But yes, you mentioned it correctly that people make us, be it
Hmm.
anybody. मतलब like
Yeah.
my parents are doctors, right? So डॉक्टर
Yeah.
भी एक अच्छा डॉक्टर तभी बन पाएगा जब लोग उसके पास आएंगे, right?
Correct. Correct.
What I mean to say here is, for you it is very different, right? Especially in the creator
Hmm.
economy. Okay, in
Hmm.
terms of me, I also own an agency, but I'm more like, I have to coordinate with the brands or the brand owners, right? I have
Correct.
very less to do with the creators out there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But tell me, what were the odds? Like you said, okay, you
Hmm.
faced a lot of rejection, and yes, people are unknowingly, and unknown people
Hmm.
have come in your
Hmm.
support, and I think that is
Hmm.
what our entire industry understands, that okay, you for
Hmm.
me and I for you, correct?
Hmm. Correct. Correct.
Our entire industry understands that, right? But
Hmm.
100% अब मेरी जर्नी में मेरे odds बहुत अलग रहे हैं. आपके odds
Correct.
कैसे
So I think with the odds, तो हमेशा they are always stacked against you. Whether if you're doing something new or if you're doing something that requires a bit of risk, right? So I think for a founder, I think a lot of people say that also. I'm not the first one to say it. कि for any entrepreneur, especially if you're
हैं?
doing something new, तो आपको थोड़ा सा मासूम होना पड़ता है. You have to be naive to the fact that you don't realize कि odds are stacked
Yeah.
against you. And क्योंकि क्या होता
Correct.
है when we raise capital, I was
Yeah.
going out creating pitch decks every day,
Hmm.
making changes to the pitch decks every day, and
Yeah.
reached out to a ton of VCs, which who
Yeah.
gave me a lot of feedback. They were very kind to give me feedback because now when I look back and look at those pitch decks, I'm like, how foolish I was, right? So उस टाइम पे अगर मुझे इतना ज्यादा लॉजिक पता होता ना तो मेरा पैशन जो है वो उतना नहीं हो पाता. बट आई थिंक व्हाट आई हैव रियलाइज्ड कि सम बिट ऑफ नाइविटी रियली हेल्प्स यू बिकॉज जो चीज आपको नहीं पता है आप ट्राई करते हो एंड ट्राई करके ही आप कुछ ना कुछ कर जाते हो राइट एंड
Correct.
वंस वी रेज कैपिटल सो आई स्टार्टेड मीटिंग विद अ लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स विद अ लॉट ऑफ फाउंडर्स एट इवेंट्स
Hmm.
तो मुझे
Hmm.
समझ में आया कि यार these guys are so sharp, these guys are
Hmm.
so intelligent, I stand
Yes.
nowhere. And during the process when I started learning all of these terms like important metrics, business
Yeah.
growth and so on, I realized the fact that because I didn't know about all this at that time, I had the courage to start off. Right. So
Hmm.
I think a bit of naivety goes a long way. So I think I never realized that my odds are stacked against me. And then eventually 1 year into the process, I realized कि यार ये तो बहुत मुश्किल है. Right. And
Hmm.
then I said, अभी तो कोई option नहीं है. अभी तो मेरे को करना है because that's the dream. Right. And people have shown trust in me. Creators have shown trust in me. So I have to
Hmm.
do it. And then we started saying कि जो भी काम हमने starting of the journey से किए थे, they started
Hmm.
giving benefits 1 year into the future, right? So whatever we had done on social media started paying off, right? People started talking about us. There were a lot of
Hmm.
referrals, but it takes time. It takes time for
Yeah.
people to discover you and to really organically absorb your brand. So I
Yes.
think वो पिछले 3-4 महीने में हुआ था. As a founder, I could really sleep well, right? And I could basically see कि यार that struggle is starting to show some signs of light at the end of the tunnel. So I think वो काफी अच्छा रहा कि I never really analytically thought about odds. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think that worked.
Okay. But your startup, Fanstar, is based on
Hmm.
the creator economy. Okay. Now,
Correct.
creator economy की journey शुरू ही हुई थी through Instagram, then there was TikTok, and then
Yeah.
obviously then YouTube blew up. Okay, YouTube पहले
Yeah.
से था, but then YouTube just blew up after
Hmm.
TikTok got banned, and then
Yeah.
how Instagram took features of TikTok, and then that is where YouTube
Yeah.
also started booming after that, right?
Yeah.
But what if tomorrow these platforms don't exist anymore? So how do you
Hmm.
think is the creator economy going to survive? I mean, I'm not talking in terms of only Fanstar.
Hmm.
Yes, I want to know
Hmm.
your perspective with in
Hmm.
terms of Fanstar also. But yes, what do you
Hmm.
think of this entire scenario?
Mhm. So I think it's a very interesting question. But Prithvi, I'm sort of a person who really believes in the fact that communication तो होगा, dissemination of knowledge तो होगा, information होगा. When Instagram and YouTube were not there, it was also happening through mainstream channels. And then Instagram
Hmm.
and YouTube and TikTok came along.
Hmm.
It gave birth to creator economy as we know it. But
Yes, yes.
eventually, if these platforms would not be there, there would be something far better, right? That's how the world works. So there will be some other medium, something that we have not realized it yet. So with respect to Fanstar, I think जो हम बना रहे हैं वो ये है कि आपकी जो भी कम्युनिटी है क्रिएटर की कोई भी
Hmm.
कम्युनिटी है वेदर बीट
Hmm.
यूट्यूब बीट इंस्टाग्राम बीट एनीवेयर एल्स you
Hmm.
can basically gain more control over them and make them part of your growth journey. So Fanstar is not about the platforms that the creators are working on. It's more
Mm-hmm.
about their authentic personality, right? Their growth, be it on any channel. So we are not restricted our creators to Instagram or YouTube, right? So Fanstar supports creators working on any platform as long as they are
Okay.
creating good content,
Hmm.
right? Doing something meaningful with their content, being regular with their content. So I think as long as there are creators and as
Yeah.
long as there is content which has been there forever, I think
Yeah.
Fanstar will keep evolving itself, and I think we have much more to learn. I think there are many more interesting things that are going to happen on top of these content platforms,
Hmm.
right, and I think we are at Fanstar we are excited about incorporating that in our product. Right.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
are anyways excited about the future. So change is the only constant, as they say. Yeah.
So you mentioned about content. Okay. So
Hmm.
as a founder of this kind of
Hmm.
startup, uh,
Hmm.
which is based on the creator economy, and creator economy is based
Hmm.
on content, right? So as a founder to
Hmm.
this kind of ecosystem, how do you
Hmm.
differentiate between good content and valuable content or
Hmm.
cringe content for that matter?
Hmm. I think very subjective question. सबके अपने takes होंगे इस पे. But the way
Yeah.
I personally see it is that valuable content is something that brings value to your personality, right?
Hmm.
Be it in the form
Hmm.
of knowledge, information that you can use at
Hmm.
strategic circumstances in your life, not just education, right?
Hmm.
But I think cringe can be something that is not adding anything to your life, but just killing your time. So I think I
Yes.
associate cringe with killing your time. So I think
Yes.
if, let's say, if I were to not watch some content and still be okay, then I think
Hmm.
that is cringe for me personally.
Hmm. Hmm.
I try to optimize a lot of my content watching. So if you look at my Instagram feed, it's I mean the stuff I consume, not the stuff I put out, but the stuff I consume is majorly like information from good
Hmm.
creators and good channels, right? So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
I have this constant flow of information once I open up the app, and it's not
Yeah.
just people posing in exotic locations and stuff like that. So I think there is nothing harmful about it. Like
Yeah.
people should spend their time in whatever shape or form they wish to. But I
Yes.
think cringe is something that if you even avoid it, it doesn't make any difference to your life. So yeah, I think valuable is something that adds, not takes away.
Yes. Yes. See, why I asked you this question is because आजकल creator economy पर and the ever changing guidelines पर इतना
Yeah.
discussion होता है, because
Yes.
Instagram has literally filtered a lot of stuff, right? These
Yeah.
days specifically,
Hmm.
like, if you see their
Hmm.
community guidelines now versus what it
Hmm.
was a year ago, it's very
Hmm.
different. I won't say
Hmm.
completely different, but it's very different.
Hmm.
These days they won't push out content which is, or they won't, even the algorithm also, it doesn't
Hmm.
literally allow or really allow this kind of
Hmm.
content where there are only like, semi-nudity happening or
Correct.
what do you say, just dance and some basic nonsensical stuff happening. But these
Hmm.
days, Instagram, like, I mean, I don't know if it's only my perception, but like people have started using Instagram and YouTube for the correct reasons, right? Initially, Instagram was started with an agenda कि okay, nahi, this is only for business purposes. It's just people who kind of turned it into something else, right? And that's how TikTok also entered the market, and again it got turned into something else, right?
Hmm.
So, and we were speaking about community guidelines, right? Community
Hmm.
guidelines आजकल इतने restricted हो गए हैं that maybe
Hmm.
it's for the good because they also saw that okay, it's going in a wrong direction, right?
Correct.
So what I mean to say is, the influencer market or the entire landscape of influencer marketing or the creator economy is ever evolving, right? And it
Correct.
is, yes, for sure, bothering a lot of founders who run the influencer marketing agencies, right?
Hmm.
So is it bothering you? And what's your perception about the ever evolving influencer market?
Yeah. Yeah. So Prithvi, I think it's a typical technological cycle, right? कोई भी
Hmm.
नई technology आती है, it has a 10 to 20 year cycle in which it evolves and gains prominence. So I think social media also as a technology, when it came along, वहाँ पे community guidelines नहीं थी, right?
Hmm.
And because of the simple fact that it was actually not important enough for people to form guidelines around it, regulations
Hmm.
around it, proven नहीं था, इतने लोग use नहीं करते थे, and जो लोग
Hmm.
use भी कर रहे थे, they were just using it for any enough reasons, right? As you
Yes.
said, right? So
Yes.
what has really happened is that Instagram or social media platforms have gained prominence as a really important communication tool, right? And
Hmm.
media as we knew it, right, has changed, right? Media has
Yes.
moved from mainstream TV channels to creator channels, right? And that's why people
Yes.
like me, you are betting on creator economy as a career, right? So I think what has really happened here is कि उसका society पर जो impact है उस technology का वो इतना बढ़ गया है कि people really feel the platforms and the regulators and governments they really feel कि अब time आ गया है कि यार we need to moderate the content. We need to ensure
Yes.
कि it is used for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. So I think as a founder, I have to be smart enough to realize that any technology, like internet, for
Hmm.
example, or any
Hmm.
technology you look at 20 years before it became mainstream, had
Hmm.
gone through the same cycle. So as a founder,
Hmm.
I have to know that, this is how it is going to look like in the next 5 years, because that's how it has happened with every technology. You talk about
Hmm.
crypto, NFTs, blockchain. Today was a very big moment for the crypto industry where Bitcoin ETF got approved, right? So I think all of that has taken years and years of it gaining adoption. And I think
Hmm.
governments pay attention to it once large part of our society starts getting impacted by it, either
Yes.
positively or negatively. Right. So I think that's my take on it. And in terms of like how we as founders or entrepreneurs, right, or people working in this profession can really deal with it is that you stand up for the right reasons. आप उन
Correct.
लोगों को support करो जो अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. You support content that is good, right? Not divisive, but like makes the people unite, right? And just stay away from just people posting random theories to just divide the
Yes.
audience and gain engagement, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a big challenge. I foresee this becoming a major sort of threat or a challenge
Yes.
wherein fake engagement, fake community is a problem, right?
Hmm. Which is correct. But do you
Yeah.
think that now that the saturation point has arrived or it is yet to arrive?
I think for Indian market, the saturation has not arrived. Maybe for
Hmm.
a few mature market, that saturation might have arrived because of the sheer size of our audience, right?
Hmm.
If you look at the numbers, a lot of these people, a lot of the regional audience still have access to, I would say, like a regional platform, not like your typical platform. And how would that change once they grow up and get educated, right? They
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
start using multiple platforms for multiple needs. So I think there is a lot of space in niches, right? Although free content has made it possible for a lot of people to watch a lot of content, but I
Hmm.
think I think a lot of opportunity in terms of deeper penetration of
Hmm.
platforms like Instagram in India, right? I
Hmm.
think that is what they're trying to do, also localizing their product. Right
Yes.
now, when I open Facebook, I see a lot of regional content, whether I like it or not. But Instagram is still more sort of what do you call it?
India one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
India
It's more
one.
India
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
it's more India one, but Facebook is definitely not India one, is
Yes.
what I feel. And that has clearly started showing up now. And I think you will see that happening to a lot more platforms. And one more very important development that is taking place between terms of algorithm is the fact that ki, wo algorithm, you might feel that Instagram is a India one product because you
Hmm.
follow India one, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now for somebody else, in tier 3 cities, tier 4 cities, it might
Yes.
pop up, it might show up regional content. And you might
Yes.
not even know about it that exists on Instagram. I have seen that happen. So one of my friends told me that it's all AI and ML doing the magic, right? Wherein your universe is limited to a
What we
genre of
see.
content.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, so the discovery is also biased towards that because they know what Vritvi wants to watch, what Himanshu wants to watch,
Yeah.
what someone else wants to watch. So I think it's a pretty interesting time. Might be that a single product can do multiple things in a very smart way, like segregating the audience and stuff. So interesting
Yes.
times.
Yes. But you know what? I have also realized that there are a few creators, these days, like you said, okay, regional content, आजकल, saturation नहीं, but
Yeah.
yes, it's more evolvement towards
Hmm.
regional content,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So there are a few creators, like top creators, or on YouTube
Hmm.
also, but they have started putting out content or, building new channels who are pretty much regional,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So what
Correct.
is your perception of this kind of change
Hmm.
before Fanstar and now that you are full-fledged into this?
Hmm. So I think before Fanstar, तो I had no idea about it. तो मेरे को तो समझ में भी नहीं आता था कि why are people creating content on a topic like this. But now I understand things better because of having interacted with people in the
Hmm.
space.
Hmm.
I think what is really happening is when creator economy started off, let's say
Hmm.
creators 4 or 5 years back were just creating their community, right?
Yes,
Somebody
yes.
at 10K was a big deal. Somebody at 100K was a very big deal. And now, after all these years, people have started realizing कि अब growth कहाँ है, right?
Hmm.
Let's say I've hit 1 million followers. Where do I get my next million from? India
Hmm.
3, right?
Hmm.
And now,
Hmm.
in order to get India 3, I have to do some regional, right? And that's why you
Yes.
see not just India 3 or regional story playing out, but you also have to look at global influencers creating India content. One example of that is one very famous creator who's a singer, right? A girl who basically sings Hindi songs in English, right? And
Okay.
because to capture Indian audience, right? So that's
Yes.
just a way for them to broaden their domain,
Hmm.
broaden their content topics, and I think the creators will go in the direction of the audience. Wherever there is
Yeah.
audience, you will see content being made for it because somebody needs to capture that audience, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
People don't want to fight for the same audience, the
Hmm.
premium audience. And by the way, there are far too many creators right now in India or worldwide. So there's increasing competition. So people are trying to delve into regional, trying to experiment. And I think
Hmm.
once this regional audience evolves over a period of time, तो आप देखोगे कि
Hmm.
ये कुछ और नया करने लग जाएंगे. So I
Understood.
think the space will always be interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Himanshu, because you deal with a lot of creators, right? Like मैंने पहले भी ये क्वेश्चन पूछा था कि अगर कल को इंस्टाग्राम
Mhm.
बंद हो गया या यूट्यूब बंद हो गया, ठीक है? So how many creators do you think are going to like literally sustain off the online world?
Hmm.
Because
I
it's very
think,
difficult to be
yeah.
relevant, like
Yeah.
जैसे आपने you mentioned like 2 3 times on the podcast as well that it's all about community building,
Hmm.
right? And that was a
Hmm.
difficult part initially to crack, right? Because not
Hmm.
every creator is really interested in building community. Majority of the new
Hmm.
creators, if you see the new ones,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Old जो पुराने थे जो बहुत टॉप नॉच क्रिएटर्स है उन्होंने अब इतने सालों में कम्युनिटी अपनी बना ली है like a loyal
Correct.
fan base बना लिया है, right? But the
Hmm.
new ones, they are only interested into brand deals, right?
Hmm.
So how do you take this? Like, how
Yeah.
difficult or how easy it is to be relevant for a
Hmm.
creator today?
I think it's going to be very very difficult because we have to realize the fact कि अभी जो जो भी हमारा monetization के around thought process है creators का especially like you mentioned कि brand deals ही सोचते हैं कुछ लोग, right? वो बना कैसे है? वो बना because of the way short form content is being served and the way these people are getting quick reach, right, through these platforms. And if these platforms go away, then the reach is gone away, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes and then it becomes a game of who's able to retain their community. And in order to retain their community, they also need to be able to use the tools, the products, to be able to serve their communities, right? And not a lot of creators have done that. One of our initiatives at Fanstar is to enable that via our product.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but I think it is going to be a cultural shock for a lot of creators who think that just like putting up a reel and just getting magical views and then getting brand deals. I think it will be a very very different world. Hopefully, some other platform will devise some other way to serve content. But I think social media platforms play a very very important role in today's world. They are as important as maybe BBC in 30 years ago. So I think from that point of view, it's going to be a drastically different world, and a lot of the creators in for quick money are going to be in for a shock because all of that is going to be cut off, and brands are not going to pay you. And even Vritvi, you must be realizing that in the last 18 months or so,
Hmm.
people have stopped paying creators just for reach or views. People have
Yes.
started demanding results. People have started demanding engagement and demanding conversions. So I think driving actions from your community is only possible when you have a bond with the community, right? Views तो Instagram दिखा रहा है तो लोगों को देखना पड़ रहा है अगर आपका वीडियो आ रहा है, right? But driving actions is something which only good creators can do. So I think
Hmm.
that market will narrow down, number of creators will go down if short form
Hmm.
goes away, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
think this patent is still valid with the long form content creators?
Long form content creation, I think, is a skill. I think the creators who are doing good quality long form can
Yeah.
have multiple sort of ways to make money or serve their content. But the kind of reach that short form gives you, like
Hmm. Hmm.
quickly and virality, that is very addictive to a creator.
Hmm.
And they are not willing to put in the amount of hard work that it takes to create a script, narratives around a 20-minute long video and stuff like that. So मेरा मानना ये है कि long form content में it is much more than just recording a video. There is aspects of storytelling. There's aspect of the whole direction bit of it, right? If you're creating good quality content. So I
Hmm.
think वहाँ पे those creators will still be able to monetize because skill level is way more, I think,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Some of
Hmm.
the short form creators are doing pretty well in terms of storytelling. I'm not saying that all of them are in the same bucket,
Yes.
but generally speaking, if you look at the majority trends, I think short form will get impacted more than the long form creators.
Okay. So you agree to this that the patent is much more in the long form content creators when it comes to relevance or to build a
Mhm.
loyal fan base or a community.
Yeah. I think so because if you're able to stick your audience to a 5 minute long video or a 10 minute long video, that says a lot about you rather than you just being able to grab eyeballs by doing something stupid or foolish for in the first 3 seconds of a video, then being able to hook the audience. And also the algorithm helps you because the algorithm is
Yeah.
incentivized to keep the audience hooked for
Hooked
longer.
up.
I'm
Yes.
not saying that everybody does that, but a lot of people do that, and but there are also creators who are doing very meaningful short form content, which I really
Hmm.
appreciate. But I think generally speaking, keeping people hooked for 5-6 minutes onto your video is very very hard. It's like 100 times harder than a 10-second reel. So I can say that.
Agree. Much agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Speaking about entrepreneurship, uh,
Hmm.
what were your burnout points? Like, as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur, we all have our burnouts,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So, what were your
So
points?
I think there are multiple and plentiful burnout points in your entrepreneurial journey. I think I
Yeah.
would be lying if I don't say that. But I think one thing that really helps me is to just go travel like for 4-5 days. After a while, it helps you give a perspective, opens up your thought process, helps me in my work as well when I'm back,
Mm.
right? I
Mm.
think that helps. I think burnout also happens from the fact that when once you're out of ideas, you have nothing meaningful to add to a discussion. That burns
Yeah.
you out. So I
Yeah.
think you have to keep founders especially have to keep themselves in a space where their team is never out of ideas, right? You
Yeah.
always have to be keep pushing the discussion forward. So even if something is doing well, you've got to be looking at the next big thing, next big idea.
Mm.
That's sort of a cultural thing. I think if you're doing that, burnout chances are less. But let's say if you stick with something, something works, and then one day it'll all break down, and then you'll be burned out, right?
Yeah.
So I think in order to avoid that, just give yourself little breathers every now and then, whatever works for you. For some
Mm.
people, partying may work. For some people,
Yeah.
travel may work. For some people, driving may work. Whatever it works, and for some people, running works. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of founders just go running.
Running.
So
Correct.
yeah, so I think that is something that we should do because at the end of it, if you are over optimizing and not taking time off to recharge yourself, right,
Mm.
then the burnout will eventually balance that,
Yes.
right? But I think one contradictory thing that I would like to say, which I'm also not able to figure out, is that in initial days you can't be balanced as a
Yes.
founder. You can't have a balanced life, so you've
Because
got
it's
to
just
have
figuring
extreme
out.
life.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is if you want a balanced life, you would have a different career. Like you would have a 9 to 5. But if you want extraordinary results, you've got to have a extreme life. So I think that happens. Burnouts are fine as long as you know how to deal with them. Like don't
Uh,
stretch them like too far.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that that's a task which every entrepreneur must master. Okay. Tell us something about your worst and the best experience in Fansta.
I think worse I'll skip because we signed up for it and we can't basically say that this. I think my worst experience have been outside of Fanstar, not with Fanstar. I think there are worst experiences there, but I think the best experiences. Uh, I think the moment, and there are multiple moments. It's not just one
Hmm.
moment. There are
Hmm.
multiple moments when you figure out and when you realize the fact that you thought of something 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was just a game inside your head or an idea inside your head. And now there are real people working on that. There are thousands of creators making money off it. There are
Hmm.
audiences that are engaged with it.
Yes.
It's like seeing something come to life. I think it hits me often, like every 2 to 3 months, I get this moment where I'm like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. We made it real. So I think that for me are the best moments in my journey. And I think that's what everybody should live for because as they rightly say that you should not be in it for the money. Right.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that, but I think if you're not driven by these moments, you
Hmm.
will never be able to persist for that long to actually make
Yes.
money, right?
Yes.
Making money is actually the last thing if you look at the order of things, right? So if you enjoy that, I think pretty good. Good for you. You're having a good life. That's what
Yes.
everyone wants. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as an entrepreneur into this space, what is that one advice that you would like to give to any influencer on earth to be strong or to be very, very, relevant in the game?
Yeah. So I think for influencers is it's basically it's very cliched, but it's like you have to be authentic. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to catch every trend, right? Very unconventional advice. People do catch trends. There are people who set up businesses just to enable people to catch trends, right?
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
think your USP or your real value lies in showcasing yourself, right?
Hmm.
And a
Hmm.
lot of good creators, if you look at it, started off like that, but
Hmm.
eventually in the garb of numbers, in the pursuit of brand deals or whatever, they sort of let their authenticity go.
Hmm.
Right. So I don't think it's necessary to catch every trend. So let's say we recently Lakshmi versus Maldives were. Everybody
Hmm.
had to post. I mean, why? Why do you have to do that? I mean, you can just keep it to yourself, right? Because
Yes.
everybody in the world is doing that. Why do you have to be the thousand
Yes.
person in
Yes.
somebody's feed to be doing that all over again?
Yeah.
Then you don't distinguish yourself. So I think for me, I think that's the time when you really stand out and not post about it and do something different, which the world is not doing for people to actually take notice, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think very few people do that. So I would say, in a nutshell, I would say be brave and follow your instinct. Yeah.
Okay. Point taken. Listeners, viewers, creators, whoever is watching or listening to this podcast and this episode, please make sure that you stay relevant with these points. Be authentic, right? Don't be
Yeah.
a fool in the jungle, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Okay. And one last question. What is ambition for you? Is
Hmm.
it only restricted to Fanstar or as Himanshu Garg, what is ambition for you?
So I think I'll just give you a small brief context and then we'll talk about ambition. So I think ambition, like your personal life and your professional life are not
Hmm.
different. You are one
Got it.
person. Your professional life should be driven by your personal goals. So for
Yes.
me, ambition is becoming the best version of myself, right? My ambition is I should be this, I should be that, and then find out channels to drive that. So I
Hmm.
believe Fanstar is a channel for me to reach the ultimate goal, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Fanstar is a vehicle to do that. And when
Hmm.
we bring people together to that goal, then it starts taking a life of its own. So I think when you talk about ambition, it is something very internal. It is something to do with a restless feeling that tells you that you are not doing something right, although you might be doing conventional stuff, right? So for me, I was into a job which was very high paying, which is very cushy. But whenever I used to have a promotion, I used to feel something is off. And I always used to basically ask myself, why do I have this feeling, right? So I think that stemmed from the fact that deep inside, I knew that there is something else that I can do much more than that.
Something more,
So I think
yes.
so I think that restless feeling that drives you to do illogical stuff without knowing the odds, I think that's ambition, right?
That's lovely. I must say, but you have a very clear perception about ambition.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
as they always say that you need to be driven by your goals, but your
yeah,
destination is always to have a happy and peaceful life with your loved ones.
correct. Yeah.
Mm.
I kind of believe that because if you're happy with yourself, you can keep others also happy. If you're not happy with yourself, you will end up being a miserable person to other people as well.
Yeah,
So I think that ambition sort of stems from that only. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Himanshu. It was lovely talking to you, and I'm sure there are a lot of key points which our listeners, which our viewers will gain from
Hmm.
this episode. What do you think about
Likewise, Prithvi, I think had a great time chatting with you, and I think if I'm able to add something to somebody's life, like to the viewers, to the listeners, I think would make my day anytime up for it. And guys, if anybody wants to connect, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn,
it? Yeah,
wherever. Just hit me up, and would love to sort of catch up and discuss about ideas, goals, ambitions. I think a lot of people have helped me, as I said earlier. I would
yeah,
love to help people. Right. Great.
that's lovely. So, guys, the links to connect with Himanshu and Fanstar will be in the descriptions below. So please do connect. And if you're a budding creator, then nothing like it. Himanshu is
Yeah.
all game for you.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Reach out to us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Himanshu. It was lovely. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Prithvi. You too.
Oh, wait, have you subscribed to my channel yet? Subscribe now.